Hello, my friend, and welcome. Today, I'd like to offer you a little experiment so that you can see what it's like to live without the conditioned thoughts, what it's like to see reality without the conditioning that your mind has in it, the filtering that your mind is putting in front of reality so that you can't see it. This is true for all of us. Back in the 60s, I think the early 60s, there was a movie made called The Manchurian Candidate. Not long ago, Frank Sinatra starred in it, and not long ago it was remade with Denzel Washington. It's the same movie. It features the star of the movie, Frank Sinatra in the first one, and Denzel Washington in the second one, was a prisoner of war. And while he was a prisoner of war, he was brainwashed. He was brainwashed so that at some point he would kill the President of the United States. I think it was the President. Anyways, I don't remember. I haven't seen it in a while. But it was about brainwashing, about the power of brainwashing to influence the mind, to influence what you do, what you perceive, what you see. So this came from, during World War II, the Japanese would take POWs, prisoners of war, soldiers that they had captured, and they would brainwash them. They would do these brainwashing experiments on them so that they would change from their love of America and support of America and hate America and support the Japanese. And then they would film them saying how the Japanese were right and America were imperialist and they were wrong. So they were brainwashed to say this, and they believed it because the brainwashing affects what we believe, what we see. It's our concepts. The reason that I'm saying this is because we've been brainwashed, all of us in any culture, whatever culture we're in, we're brainwashed by that culture to see the world in a certain way, to perceive the world in a certain way, to perceive ourselves in a certain way, and others in a certain way. This brainwashing affects how we see the world, but it is not reality. It's not how the world actually is. And awakening means to see the world as it actually is, to see the world, to see reality as it actually is, without the brainwashing, without the conditioned thoughts filtering life out into certain opinions and projections that we see. And this little experiment that I'm going to do with you is very simple, if you're willing to do it, to see, one, how your conditioning affects how you see the world, to directly experience this. You get to see your mind, your conditioned mind, and to see what the mind is like free of it. To see what it's like to see the world as it actually is without any conditioning. So to do this, we'll use a very simple thing. We'll just use the letter A. We'll just use the letter A, this letter A that you're seeing on the screen. And as you see this letter, if you're willing to do this, as you let go of the conditioned thoughts, you'll see that the letter will actually change. Your perceptions of this letter will actually change. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing any special effects or anything to change it. It's your own mind that's doing this. So as the conditioned thoughts fade away, the way you see this letter is also going to change, because how you perceive this simple letter on the screen is from your conditioned thinking, is from your conditioned thoughts. You're not seeing it as it really is. You're actually seeing your thoughts about it. You're seeing your conditioned thoughts, not the letter itself. All right, let's begin with saying that we see this as a letter. This is the letter A. It's the first letter in the English alphabet, and it's the beginning letter in words like apple, automobile, different letters like this. It's the first letter in that, and it's also features, is part of words that it's not the first letter of. So it's a letter that we use in our language to create words. So I'm asking you now if you can let go of some of this, if you can let go of the thought that this letter A is the first letter of an alphabet. If you can let go of the conditioned thought alphabet. If you can let go of the conditioned thought that this is the first letter of an alphabet, and let go of the conditioned thought of alphabet itself. Can you do that? See if you can just let go of these thoughts. Can you let go of that this is a letter in a word? Apple, automobile. Can you let that go so that you don't know what this A is? It's no longer a letter in an alphabet. It's no longer a letter in a word. Those are just your thoughts about it. Those are just your conditioned thoughts. So see if you can let those go. Now look at this image. Has it changed? Can you let go of the thought alphabet? Can you let go of the name A? Can you let go of the thought of words? You see how it's different now. If you can let go of these things, you may be seeing this now as just lines, shapes on a screen that don't really have any meaning at all. You need those conditioned thoughts to give it meaning. When those conditioned thoughts are let go, it has no meaning. It's just lines on a screen, black lines on a white screen. Can you let go of the thought lines, shapes? Can you let go of the thought black and white? By now you should be seeing that this image is changing. Letting go of these thoughts that your perception depends on releases your perception to see something else. It's not as solid anymore, is it? You may start seeing this shape, this black, dark shape on a white background start fading into the white background. You might start seeing that there's no separation between this image and the background. It just starts coming together. We can take it a little further and say that you who are perceiving this, can you let go of the idea that you are separate from this image? That you and this image are two different things, two separate things. Can you let go of that idea? Can you let go of that thought? That you and this image on the screen are not two separate things, not one and not two. That neither apply in reality. Those are just more thoughts, more conditioned thoughts. Now you may be having a number of experiences as you watch this, as you look at this image. If you can free yourself of these concepts, you no longer know what this is. You no longer know it's the letter A, or an alphabet, or a word, or a shape, or a form, or something separate from you, something separate from anything. Can you see how this changes your perception? We're not adding anything. Notice we're not adding anything. We're only taking away thoughts. We're only taking away conditioning. We're only deprogramming your conditioned mind. And without this programming, without this conditioning, you don't know what this is. You can't say if it's separate from you or not separate. You can't say anything about it. You're free of concepts. So you don't know what this is. It's an interesting experience, isn't it? The more you can let go, the more you're going to experience some dramatic shifts in your perceptions. It might be frightening to you to not know what this is, to not know anything? What can you hold on to? But this is freedom. This is opening to reality. Now in Zen we might say that A is not A. It's no longer A, because the A that we thought it was is just thoughts. It's not what it is. It's just conditioned thoughts. It's brainwashing. It's conditioning. That's what we're looking at, not this image. We're looking at our thoughts. As we let go of the thoughts, we start seeing the image, and it's very interesting. It doesn't stay the same. It can be anything, because it's no longer conditioned by our thoughts. But that's not the end of the story, because now we can say honestly that A is not A. We've let go of all these concepts of A, so A is no longer A. What is it if it's not A? And the next step is, we also can't say that A is not A. We can say that A is not A, but we can't say that it doesn't exist. We can't say that A doesn't exist, because that would be denying its existence. It does exist. It just doesn't exist as our conceptual thinking. It doesn't exist as our concepts about it. So because A is not A, so that we can't say that A is A anymore, but we also can't say that A is not A. We can't say that A is A, and we can't say that A is not A. And in those two things, that recognition of those two things, the hardest is to say that A is no longer A. That this A that we've seen through our conditioned mind is not the same thing anymore. It's not conditioned. It's free. We're free. But we also can't say that it doesn't exist. That's denying its existence. So when we're free, completely free of all our concepts about A, we and A are completely free. Now we can say that A is A. So in Zen we often say, because A is not A, we can say that A is truly A. It's confusing, but if you let go of your conceptual thoughts, A is not A in the way we thought it was. Now it's truly A. And because we're free, we can use it. We can call it A, we could call it B, but it wouldn't make sense to other people, so we'll just call it A. But we're free of these concepts about A. So we can use A, we can use forms, we can use language, we can use descriptions, but we're free of it. We're no longer brainwashed. We're no longer conditioned by it. Now we use language as a tool, that's all. Not as how we perceive life, not as how we perceive the world. The way we perceive the world is continuous not knowing. All knowing that we have in our mind is just thoughts. We understand that. It's just thoughts. So we see the world in a free way. We see the world in an open way. Reality is reality. And we can't name it. We can't describe it. And yet we experience it. So if this experiment worked with you, if you truly let go, you saw your whole perceptions of this letter changing, shifting, falling apart. As the conditioning fell apart, as the conditioning was let go, your perceptions of this letter also fell apart and let go. Now, we don't want to leave you in that state. It's actually samadhi, when the whole world just falls away, body and mind fall away. But we don't function in the world through this way. So we bring language back, we bring thoughts back, but we're no longer a prisoner of them. We're no longer conditioned by them. We're no longer brainwashed by them. We live freely in the world, and we use language freely in the world as a tool as a tool, like a hammer, not as our God, not as our perception of reality. We see reality as it is, but we also don't make concepts about what it is, because we can't. Reality is not a concept. Enlightenment is not a concept. A is not a concept. You are not a concept. I am not a concept. This is reality. Everything seen without concepts is just reality. As it is, there's nothing we can say about it. We cannot say that it's separate from anything else, because it's not. And we also can't say that it's one with everything else. There's really nothing we can say about reality. That's the confusing part when we're trying to communicate the awakened nature to other people that are not awake, because language doesn't really work. It doesn't really function in that capacity. We cannot describe reality. It's beyond all concepts, beyond all words, beyond all form, and yet it's form. And it's also words. So I hope this little experiment worked with you and you had an experience. Don't be afraid if what happened. If it's a little bit hard for you, watch it again. You don't have to go all the way through if it gets difficult, if your perceptions start falling apart and you get nervous about it. It can happen, at first. Go slowly, stop, and then when you feel a little bit ready, do it again. Try it again. The more you can let go of your thoughts and your concepts, your programming, the more you'll live in reality, in the world. There's nothing you can say about it. You're not going to come to some awakening where you go, oh, I understand everything. You don't understand anything. That's what being free is. Understanding is just more concepts. You don't understand anything in reality. You don't understand reality. Nobody does. But we live in reality, as reality, in great joy, peace, love, and comfort in this. Because we're no longer suffering. Our concepts are what are contributing to our suffering, are creating our suffering. The sense of I, separate from you, separate from the letter A, separate from everything, is what creates our suffering. And this falls away. This is just a dream, just illusion. Living in reality, we no longer experience that. So that's the beauty of it. I hope you did this experiment and experienced that what you're perceiving, what you're seeing, is your conditioned mind, are your thoughts, is your brainwashing, not what's actually here. Thank you, my friend.